team of all time opposite the hometown heroes with the eyes locked on the Grand Slam. And I can't wait to get this series underway.
The last of the LEC versus the last of the LCK for the MSI rematch. That's it.
Khan is gonna find that kill.
Perkz going in though, he sees it.
Did Faker sets it up?
The last hope of the LEC, the last hope of Europe on European soil at a European world.
There's world's best and then there's world champions, and that's SKT.
So are you gonna die today?
To be the king, you gotta beat the king. Faker still lies ahead.
Gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling. Phoenix fly.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Hay alguien ahí? Madrid, bienvenidos a la segunda semifinal. ¿Cómo estáis? Solo quedan 3 equipos. Ayer vimos a FanPlus pasar a la final y solo nos queda un partido más. Gracias a todos, chicos y chicas. Tenemos con nosotros al primer equipo preparado y es el 3 veces campeón del mundo, SKT. En la top lane, Khan. En la jungla, Clid. En la mid lane, un extraterrestre, FLICKR. Como tirador, Teddy. Como support, Ifar. Como sustitutos, Mata y Haru. Y como entrenador, Sefa. Y enfrente, señoras y señores, tenemos al actual campeón del MSI y al 6 veces campeón de Europa, G2. En la top lane, en la jungla, Jankos. En la calle central, el niño prodigio, Perkz. Como tirador, Perkz. Como support, Mikyx. como suplente, una leyenda. Pro Miss Q. Lleva la medalla del MSI, ¿eh? Y como entrenador, amigos y amigas, disfruten del último mejor de 5 aquí en Vista Alegre. Gracias a todos, adiós. Toma las cartulinas si quieres, crack, de recuerdo. Hasta luego.
Here we are. Welcome to SKT versus G2 Esports. I'm Jankos. This is Jat and VODs. And if you're watching this right now, you're probably feeling a lot of things. It might be excitement, it might be anxiety or fear. It could be any one of a number of emotions, but everyone is excited and ready for this series.
How could you not be? This has been building up ever since the MSI semifinals, where G2 was able to take down SKT in what was an extremely tense best of 5.
Yeah, and after the series yesterday, I messaged you two guys. I'm like, how can we make this series just happen now?
Yeah.
Because I almost couldn't sleep last night because I was so excited about this happening. And as you mentioned, VODs, this series has been building for a while. And this is not your typical FLICKR versus a European team matchup, because it's G2 who is the team that beat them at MSI. It is G2 who has the home crowd. And while FLICKR does have more Worlds wins and more Worlds experience than any other player in history, if you actually look at the entire G2 team and add up their Worlds games, they have more Worlds games experience than SKT would. So this is very much an even level playing field, and I have no idea who's going to win.
And when was the last time we saw an analyst desk in a matchup versus SKT not have majority votes in favor of SKT? How far Europe and G2 have come to contest them, and how close this series today will be.
And this crowd is going nuts. You can imagine like how much support this feels for G2 and how SKT need to just calm their nerves. I mean, aside from FLICKR, Clid, Teddy, and Effort, this is their first Worlds semifinal. They've only played 10 Worlds games, and that's been from group stage until here.
There is a lot of pressure on the shoulders of SKT. But while the crowd is in support of G2, and while many European fans have high expectations of them, you have to imagine that the pressure is on their shoulders as well. It was only Caps that made it to the World Finals last year. Perkz got knocked out 3-0 alongside his teammates in Jankos and Wunder. They were crushed by Invictus Gaming, and so were their hopes of making that miracle run a reality. But this roster was built to achieve this. This roster was built to win. Caps left that World Finalist team to join this roster where the other best mid laner domestically changed roles. And so far, they have exceeded all initial expectations.
And look at the energy of the team. Caps laughing and joking around before this game, because when we think of the fan perspective, everyone's really nervous to watch this game from both sides, SKT and FLICKR fans and G2 fans. Some people, they'll get anxiety and they don't even want to watch because they don't know what's going to happen. And these players imagine what it's like for them. And they have to spend so much time and energy and practice to calm themselves down and just think about the next game. Think about the draft. What are they going to do? How are they going to find victory?
This is not a day where you can afford to underperform. You have to be at your best in each and every single role. There are no weak players left standing at the 2019 World Championship. And as we head into picks and bans, it's all eyes on the draft, because something has got to give. Some power pick will make it through, and something will change in the meta today.
Everyone watching at home, we are finally here. We are finally into the draft. And Jat and I have been speaking so much this week about high priority bans, high priority picks. Things like the Pantheon are to be expected. Qiyana also expected, but SKT banning away the Syndra already in game 1 is quite the surprise.
Yeah, and we spent about 2 hours whiteboarding different mock drafts, and never did we run through the same draft twice, because there are about 10 to 12 picks that feel like if they aren't banned, they are going to be picked. So it's not as much about, oh my God, I can't believe they left this champion up. It's more about what do we want to leave up. And the Quinn ban is the first thing that to me sends a signal that SKT want to pick Renekton.
Now the question is, are G2 happy to leave it open? We've seen them answer with the Ornn before.
Yeah.
Things like the Ryze are also open. Do you take the gamble and say, okay, you first pick Renekton, we will take the Ryze? Or is SKT doing a double bluff here and saying, well, you know what? We'll actually first pick Ryze and we'll give you the Renekton because we have something else prepared.
So Ryze is up. Renekton is up. Xayah and Rakan are up as a duo.
Yeah.
SK Telecom will lock in the Renekton. There are so many tournament power picks up and available for both sides right now.
Yeah, Xayah Rakan's up, Kai'Sa Nautilus is up, all the other things you mentioned. It's a matter of what these teams want to make sure they have, and with the performance of G2, I think it's the Xayah Rakan.
It's got to be Xayah Ryze. I think that they will actually not put a huge amount of priority on the Rakan.
Yeah.
I think that they care more about getting Perkz on one of his best champions, but also giving the flexibility that a Ryze does have. I feel that it can go into a Renekton, even if it's not the best matchup, but the fact that you can flex it would make it extremely valuable. And do you really want to give SKT both Ryze and Renekton?
Betty says you say that.
You wouldn't think giving them the double flex, and that's why they hover the Gragas to then go for the Ryze. Smart move by G2.
But now it leaves the Gragas open for Clid. Gragas, I think, hands down one of the most successful, if not the most successful jungler at the tournament. Second most popular behind Lee Sin. Incredible win rate so far. And SKT now have to choose. Do they want to grab Kai'Sa? Because if they don't, it will be banned away. They've already grabbed the Gragas. What will the last pick be?
Well, I think that for SKT, they must have something else prepared for Xayah, because the best thing for... Oh, okay, never mind. They're just going to go straight for the Kai'Sa.
Something special, something new,
I thought they would do
it's
something
Kai'Sa.
different. Nope, they're going to stick with standard. So far, SKT's comp, very traditional, very standard, and now G2 can freely pick up the Rakan, and they can start banning away the obnoxious supports. Leona, Nautilus, Alistar, things that pair up well against Kai'Sa can now be taken away.
You did just mention 3 supports, though.
Yes.
And there are only 2 bans that SKT have left. And likewise, since SKT has locked in Gragas, and there is already an Elise ban on the side of G2, I expect SKT to now attack Jankos' champion pool.
And Jankos does pay the price for securing the Xayah Rakan, the Ryze. We now have to see how deep his champion pool goes. If they ban away the Lee Sin, that'll be all 3 of the high priority junglers taken off the list. But for now, it is the Ornn, the other counter pick that we've seen into the Renekton. We saw Wunder play it up against Griffin. It worked wonderfully for him in the early game.
Watch G2 pull out a Singed or something now, something ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's the added wrinkle to this whole draft phase is none of us are expecting there to be no new picks at this event. There are the super top tier where it's this saturated vat of these champions we're seeing in this pick and ban phase with maybe Ornn and Tristana kind of on the fringe edge. What's the new pick going to be is what we haven't seen yet. And they're going to need something into this Renekton.
I am a big fan of this Tristana ban against FLICKR. It was something that he often brings out against the Ryze. He's been able to have some great performances in the matchup, and G2 showcasing that respect. Oh, they're actually valuing the Rek'Sai over something like the Lee Sin, something that they have often gone for, but clearly showcasing a preference for the slightly stronger dueler and early game jungle.
And I think what we've seen so far out of this draft phase is a higher preference towards matchups rather than just trying to stockpile as many power picks as possible.
I like the hover here from SKT. I'm expecting the Leona to come through, and now they're just looking for their mid laner. With Syndra taken off the board, and with Tristana taken off, they're going to have to go for something different in the mid lane, and Twisted Fate is something that FLICKR has played so far this tournament.
It's also something that G2 have struggled against repeatedly domestically, but Cassia would be new. Eventually consider the counter pick to Ryze in previous metas, not something that we've seen as much. But the Neeko, you said you wanted something new. We were supposed to see something, and that might be it. But where is the Neeko going to go?
The Neeko I expect to be mid lane. This was actually one of FLICKR's most played champions throughout the year, or rather throughout the summer split. And it's something that he defaulted to when he just needed something safe and strong in the mid lane. A lot of team fight power, can be pretty effective in the lane. I'm excited to see him back on the pit.
G2 taking their time on this final pick. It looks like it will be the Kled now coming out, looking to match the Renekton wherever it does end up. And it looks like topside will be the Kled versus Renekton matchup, Khan versus Wunder.
I'm excited. we did all this prep and we're like, what's it going to be? We didn't come up with this draft.
Well, this is what people don't know is we got through the first half of the draft easy. The second came to lane and counter picks for solo lanes. We're like, we don't know. We have no idea.
We just don't, and it's about what you're willing to opt into. So in this case, SKT did a very Renekton-focused draft. They used a late first phase ban on Quinn. They first picked Renekton, and what does it cost? It costs Ryze and basically Xayah Rakan with the way G2 managed to pull this out. So G2, in a sense, draft around their bottom side with a little bit of mid, and SKT draft around Khan.
I think the biggest thing to track in this first game for all the viewers at home, the mid laners, they do not like to stay in their lane. They showcased in the quarterfinals that they love to roam, especially early. So keep your eyes on them. Let's see which lanes they can impact, if they can impact middle.
Here we go, SK Telecom T1 versus G2 Esports. Who will face FPX in the 2019 World Finals? We're gonna find out today. Madrid and the Policia Vistalegre is ready. FLICKR and Caps facing each other down in the mid lane, the first seed of the LCK versus the first seed of the LEC. In years past, SKT would have been favored through and through, but this year, even footing, everything on the line for both these players.
And you can see, we just mentioned with the draft phase, to pay attention to these mid laners, not because of the mid lane, but because of where they go elsewhere. Look at that lane percentage stat. That's the percentage of time between 3 and 15 minutes that these players actually stay in mid lane. And Caps did that less than any other player in the quarterfinals. FLICKR in the group stage did it less than any other mid laner in the group stage. So push and roam will be the name of the game, and where do they go from there?
And the question for me is, where do these teams look to prioritize early? Because for SKT, typically you'd want to try and play around a Renekton lane. You'd want to stack up a wave, look to set up a dive, but Kled is very difficult to dive. He's a very difficult champion to actually try and snowball onto. So they could pivot their attention down towards the bot side of the map. With a Leona, you have a lot of early game setup, Gragas provides a lot of damage, and you know that Perkz and Mikyx are going to be aggressive in this 2 versus 2.
And the early game has been so important, not only for these teams, but also in this matchup. If we look back to their MSI best of 5, the team that won the early game won all 5 games. So what types of early trading are we going to see as SKT look to go very aggressive early?
Perkz and Mikyx definitely not getting the good end of that trade. Heal burned very early on. Important to note, neither bot lane is opted to take the TP. Clearly, both are ready for a potential all-in here on the bottom side.
And this is what we were just talking about, how Perkz and Mikyx love to try and trade during the laning phase. They try to build their own advantages by being aggressive. And this is a great opportunity for SKT to try and punish this. With one Summoner Spell already down, you can see that Clid is doing a full bot side clear. Very standard for a Gragas. I'm wondering if you'll choose to base or if you'll look for a bot lane gank.
And what we're looking at right now from SKT is a pushing top lane and a pushing bot lane. And traditionally, you actually wouldn't say this is what you should be doing, because the strong side of the map, the side with your jungler, should be the ones that are allowed to push. And the weak side would actually have to play a little bit passively. That's not actually how SKT have been playing. There have been instances where they're going for a dive top and their bottom line is still aggressive. It is a potential window to punish, but if left unpunished, can also be a way for SKT to gain an edge in the early game.
For now, no one pushing for a greater edge. You can see Gragas pulling back as his very standard 3 quick camps, followed by the Predator boots to make sure that Kled can have maximum impact on the map. Jankos now moving into lane, waiting in the darkness, but will be revealed by the ward. Luckily, the sweeper will clear out a little bit of that vision, may be able to get a second ward here in the duration. Will just opt to back off. Clearly, G2 putting some resources on the bottom side. It's important to remember, they gave up this Renekton for the Xayah Rakan. What will it do for them in the early game?
They're also answering it with the Kled, something that they clearly did not need to prioritize because they recognized the Ornn would likely be banned. We now see Kled looking for a gank mid.
Caps snare, this is going to be bad. Kled now moving in, pre-wave there to body block. Caps will be forced to retreat, but the phase rush just allows him to zoom out to safety.
Yeah, a good ward in the river gives him early knowledge of the gank. The phase rush helps him after that, and Clid didn't want to follow into the river because they had previously seen Jankos down there. So pretty much just a well-played gank by both teams.
And some fancy footwork there on the bottom side for Mikyx and Perkz, using that unique Lover's Recall to get themselves safely out of lane on the back of that push. And you can see a very early base for Perkz, happy with the Essence Reaver build patches to grab double longsword, just to make sure that he can push as much into this lane as is possible.
A couple of other things to note as well is early teleports are now being used by both G2 solo lanes, which means that SKT do have this TP advantage. Something that they did a lot of during the group stages was try and force early TP plays towards the bot side of the map, where in windows where the opposition did not have them available. That was how they were able to build a lot of their early game advantages, just because they knew they had this summoner spell advantage.
Mikyx roam.
Locked up though. FLICKR now has to run for the hills, but he's burning down the Ignite. It might not be enough. Mikyx, the 1-for-1. FLICKR gets it back.
I mean, those are the types of plays that Mikyx has made in the past to be able to impact the mid lane. The fact that it did give a kill back and FLICKR has his teleport up actually means it doesn't give him a big edge, but that's the type of look G2 wants to make.
Here comes effort into the mid lane as well. They're looking to run the play back on the opposite side. The flash in, Caps now locked up the chain CC. It's flawless, and Caps deleted by the Leona.
Fantastic response from SKT. They're able to get the kill onto Caps, and now they actually have the kill lead. Now Khan has found Jankos.
Might just have to dash in though, should have the second proc there. We'll dash out to safety. Clid waiting over the wall.
Oh, they might go back in.
They're going back in. Jankos, the flash body slam. He's trying to run the tunnel. We'll take him out to safety. Back under the tower, but within inches of death there.
Yeah, flash for flash, but SKT is definitely going to try and keep the pressure up, just delaying Jankos' recall as much as possible. You can't really dive the Kled this early unless you're willing to send another, so for now, it looks like you have the all clear to recall.
Clid, though, he's not done yet. He wants to try and set up a play onto the top lane.
Just backing.
Can't just hit level 6.
And FLICKR did go into fog, so Wunder has to respect the roam.
No TP though. Khan just going to walk up, just going to fight for that plate. Wunder's not going to burn any cooldowns without seeing the Gragas. Has to be patient, but will now be able to clear this wave out.
So we're going to be diving back into this play. Mikyx, level 3 roam. Remember that the bot lane did a very early base, but I love the fact that Effort is already roaming mid. This means that as Mikyx and Caps are setting up the play, Mikyx unfortunately gets just a little too close to the tower. He gets rooted up, but now Caps, he can't push the wave out. And while Effort has to commit a flash, he's able to find a return kill.
And the biggest thing when using your flash aggressively for kill mid is you have to be able to reset the wave. Unable to do that, and the correct punish by SKT.
Now the all-in on the bottom side, though. Effort has gone face first into danger, but Perkz is so low. One more proc. Not going to find a play yet. He has to be careful. Caps now moving in. The knockup is there. Mikyx now trying to find a retreat, but Clid coming into the backside. Caps trying to zoom his way through the fight. The phase rush isn't going to be enough. Caps now caught up with Effort, but the CC is there, and Caps goes down. A beautiful punish from SKT.
And that's a disaster for G2, because not only is their bottom lane down healing having to back, that was an unmatched roam in which Caps died. So we talked about what are these mid laners going to be able to do in the roaming game. When that happens, you actually cede control of the mid lane, and FLICKR will probably have freedom to roam for the foreseeable future.
Beautiful punish from SKT, and we talked so much about how important it is for both these teams to look for these early roams, and the fact that SKT was able to stop Caps from finding any advantages with his initial roam is, as you were saying, Jack, very detrimental to the side of G2. SKT are looking very good in this early stage.
And you can see that Clid pretty early catches Caps in the jungle, so SKT should know that Caps at least has the opportunity to go down here, and this play is kind of known for a while, so they get so much out of Mikyx and Perkz that the turn is difficult for the rest of G2 to follow up on, and we're just going to see a Hex Flash into a play.
Repeat! Oh, Void's here going to force the ult out there from Perkz. That's going to make him so vulnerable in the lane phase to come, and SKT's bottom lane, not the point of the map where we expected them to be strongest, but really showing up so far in game one. Teddy, though, no mana. He is going to be in trouble. Flash to flash out to safety. Effort might just be sacrificed, but Clid is coming in on the backside. It's not Clid, though. That's a fake Clid. That's a FLICKR waiting.
If he lands a Q, he might RN.
Can go for it. Clid waiting there, though. Would be able to get the kill, but then would immediately get taken down as fake Clid waiting in the river.
And I love how SKT are responding to a lot of this early aggression coming out from G2. They knew that this game was going to be a brawl. They knew that they had to be able to match the high pace that G2 like to set, because that is what allowed G2 to get advantages against SKT at MSI. This is the evolution that SKT has made, and Clid has been tracking Jankos incredibly well. He's been in the right place at the right time to punish, and Teddy and Effort are playing this lane extremely well as well. They're punishing the over-aggression from Perkz and Mikyx that is not getting the support support from Caps, because every time he tries to roam, it gets interrupted.
And I think we should keep looking at effort. He is the least experienced player on this roster overall. He has had a few bad games at Worlds, but I felt like he had actually a pretty strong quarterfinal. So how will he respond to G2's roams? Because if someone's going to get picked off in these games, it would likely be the Leona, and so far effort has played very well.
Punishing Mikyx left and right with some beautiful Zenith Blades, as well as the gank into the mid lane. Of course, the cask thrown in from Clid there in an attempt to steal the blue buff. Still will be secured by the side of G2. So for at least a minute, they will have a reprieve from the all-in threat of the Gragas. Jankos finally hitting level 6, but just has not been able to match so far. It's kind of been chasing Clid around the map.
I think that's a very large cooldown burn by Clid just to attempt a blue steal. Probably not worth it, all things considered, because now he can't even really look to contest River, where Jankos will have level 6 and Hail of Blades. It means his bottom lane also can't get forward control, where it's really until that ultimate cooldown is back up, the rest of SKT is in a bit of a pressure deficit, and that might allow G2 to be able to catch up in this game.
Now, one of the things I will also be tracking is whether one of these two teams looks for an early swap. Because what you can do, especially given that G2's bot lane has been struggling in the laning phase, is try for an early swap towards topside, generate a numbers advantage, and then look to make a play for the Herald, while SKT will trade it for a Drake. And given that it's a Cloud, that would be a pretty advantageous trade for G2, and they could potentially get out of this 2v2 that they have been struggling in.
Caps walking into Fog of War, and we'll start up the Cloud Drake. Jankos on the way down. Not the biggest objective, but will be clutch for the movement between lanes here in the early to mid game.
It'll be incontestable. Clid was spotted by expiring G2 ward on his blue buff, so this was a very safe move from G2, and I think a lot of this actually does stem back from Clid wasting his ult trying to steal a blue buff. It left a vacuum of pressure that G2 was able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, Jat. But what I love now with SKT is because they were on the top side, they're immediately responding with the Herald themselves, which means this swap, if it comes out from G2, is not going to be as beneficial. And now we'll actually start to see these supports open up on the map. Look at Mikyx on the minimap and look at Effa. Both of them looking for opportunities, grouping up around mid, seeing if they can help gain priority to allow their mid laners to roam around.
Both of them level 6. Very easy, though, for SKT to find a setup onto a pick if anyone missteps, though. They have the hose for FLICKR in the mid lane. Wunder, though, all in on the top side, but this matchup has just been very back and forth. Neither one able to find a greater edge quite yet.
And what I have liked about the Kled pick is how hard it's made it for Khan to be able to dive. Notice that Wunder's actually very even in farm. He hasn't tried to play super aggressively. He hasn't relied on Jankos to play around his lane. He's just like, you can't kill me, I can't kill you. And I think that this... why have I forgotten its name? The Kled should outscale the Renekton later on and will be a strong initiator for later fights, and I imagine G2 will look to set it.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that ends up playing out, because I've seen Renekton's 1v3 with Spear of Sojourn. It's all about if you can find access to the fight. I think it's one of the reasons it's been such a banned pick. And even now, SKT still opting to play through top. So they have a few plates broken, and instead of trying to use the Herald mid for FLICKR and potentially more mid roaming, they're going straight for Khan, and maybe even looking to make a play afterwards onto Wunder.
Conqueror proc, Clid waiting in the darkness, does have the cask back up.
We might see two fights.
Dive. Effort, though, going to go in on the bottom side. That's fake. FLICKR diving into the back side. Won't find anything as the quick retreat now comes out. And Wunder doing what he can to hold onto the tower, but will not walk in. And that means tower first blood will go down in the favor of SKT.
Yeah, really interesting interaction there, how SKT actually tried to force a three-man fight on the bottom side when they had their jungler and top laner top. But it's all about reacting now as SKT stay mid.
Coming in, Wunder has the ultimate. He might just dive in. Have to be careful, though. FLICKR has his ultimate, a perfect disengage tool. And that's going to be the real FLICKR diving in. Teddy, though, they're going to demount Wunder, and that's going to mean that he cannot ult in the coming fight. FLICKR just pressuring more with damage, knowing it stops the engage options for G2 until Wunder remounts.
And SKT are playing the map much better right now, because remember that they made the trade where they got the Herald. They were the one that could create a tempo advantage up towards the top side of the map, which meant that there was no answer from G2. And because of the engage from SKT, that forced G2 out of mid lane, and they were too low to be able to commit to bot tower, which means that there was no answer from G2. SKT only gained advantages by securing the top tower. They got a plate in mid lane, and they can now look to set up for the Infernal Drake that's spawning in 2 minutes' time.
The only thing that G2 would have gained off of that is vision in SKT's red side jungle and plate spot for Perkz.
Yes.
So when we thought about this draft to begin with, it was SKT who put a higher priority on getting Renekton, and G2 who used their first two picks on the Xayah and Ryze. So we did at least expect these teams to play through Renekton, for top lane on SKT, and play through bottom lane on G2. And that's, for the most part, where we've seen these efforts. So now, as they kind of clash at the Drake pit, we'll see who hits the stronger power spike. Is it the Xayah right now with the Essence Reaver, or is it SKT with the control?
Now, SKT have cleared out all of that vision that you were just talking about, Jack. They're the ones with control over the bot side river, but they're the ones with priority over mid lane. What's fascinating is G2 is not committing to that vision just yet. They do not want to walk into the darkness. They're actually committing to a top lane play.
Looks like they just set their sights there instead. Apparently not worried about the Infernal quite yet. 1 minute and 16 seconds, maybe knowing that they're weaker, willing to give that one up. As 4 members of the SKT lineup collapse on the bottom side tier 1. Wunder can do nothing here. He just has to give this one up.
Yeah, this was quite a surprising play from G2 because the wave was already being pushed by Khan in the top lane. The fact that G2 don't answer suggests to me that they were worried about a potential dive on bot side and they did not think that they could defend it, or they saw an opportunity top that just did not pay out. Either way, this is another advantage gained for SKT, and now they're sitting with a 2k gold lead.
And Perkz doesn't even have teleport, so the fact that he's pushing up the top turret here is telling me that G2 is probably willing to concede the Infernal Drake for more gold onto Perkz, which isn't typically the plays we see out of G2, but it looks like what they're going for now.
I think it could be because of the Renekton. Level 11, Tiamat completed, now has the Phage as well. Khan is very strong at this point in the game, and he got all of that gold from the turret plates. So maybe G2 is thinking, right, if we take a fight right now, it could be very bad for us. Yes, it's the first Infernal, but we get stronger later on into the game. 2, 3 items. That's when we'll be in a better position. So let's not overforce anything for now.
They really want to dive. They really want to dive Khan, who's played this very patiently, but he doesn't know there's 4 people here looking to kill him.
FLICKR has TP, he can't make his way in. Captain's going to get the point click. CC, the instant lock of the follow through. The dominance is not enough, and G2 will find the pick and set their sights on the tier 2.
Great play by G2, but where does it go from here? We got Clid trying to finish the Infernal Drake, and SKT isn't in position to make any other play. So as far as conceding Infernal Drakes, that's about as good as you can do.
Now, where do they go next? Wunder in the mid lane. Looks like he's caught out for now. The Solar Threat comes in, but he manages to get the dash away. Ryze coming into the mid lane. SKT are going to have to fight a fight at a man disadvantage. FLICKR's ult could be everything, but it looks like G2 will just pull back. Giving them that wide berth, though, giving them that respect, and it will be the Infernal for the tier 2 in the end.
Now, there was a lot of farm bot lane that just made its way into the turret that no one on the side of G2 picked up. But this was the first successful proactive play that we did see from G2. They attacked the strong side of the map with Khan. Admittedly, the rest of his team wasn't playing around him, but he considers himself pretty safe. You can see this vision on the minimap. In the river, he's thinking, I should be okay. He is not expecting a 4-man dive here, and to be fair, there's little he could have done outside of runaway.
It's an amazing cross-map play from G2. They had been out-pressured in the bottom river. They had been down in early turrets. They didn't have the power spike to take an Infernal Drake, yet now we look at the gold, and it's dead even for them. So full credit there to G2 for keeping this game dead even.
Yeah, and you have to say, if they had tried to force a team fight against FLICKR at this point in the game, when you have so many AoE ultimates, it could have gone against them. So to find a play that would work out, that would help them even the gold, is very well done. But while it is even, SKT still have double stopwatches, still have huge amounts of magic damage on their side. And if a single member of G2 gets caught out, if Perkz gets caught out as the ulti is now forced, could mean the next fight in favor of SKT easy.
What I think is interesting to think about as well is scaling, because for G2, I think they actually have a very strong mid-game spike, but by Teddy going for the early Storm Razors, I feel that SKT could say the same for their composition as well.
SKT
just bullying down. G2 do not feel comfortable to match. Both their solo laners fanned out across the map to pick up CS.
And we see there from G2 the willingness to concede a mid-turret, and I think in that situation it was the right call. Normally games around 18 minutes that are this low in kills and this even in gold get broken open by some big explosive team fight where neither team is willing to concede something and they clash. But what I noticed about watching G2, especially in their series against Damwon, is that fight rarely happened. G2 was very good about only trying to take fights on their terms, and they weren't necessarily team fights, they were picks. And you can see that's what they're doing now. They, instead of fighting at Infernal, which could have been close, maybe 60-40, a team like IG would have absolutely just fought at Infernal Drake and just see what happens. But G2 found the 4-on-1 and made it work. And there, they weren't willing to concede their mid turret because it would have been too high risk. But because they traded mid turret, they end up getting bot turret. Where will we see that fight is my question.
It's all about pressure. And what I love about these two teams and why I think they are both so good is they're just very smart. When you play League of Legends, depending on how many people you have on the map, depending on how much pressure you have, depending on your composition, can often dictate areas of the map that do and don't belong to you. You'll hear analysts and casters refer to them as strong side, weak side. A great example was just there. Khan, in a 1v1, he's like, why do I have to be afraid of Wunder? But he recognizes that his team is nowhere near. So he has to respect that he's playing on the weak side and has to disengage. So he has to concede the tower. And both of these teams are very aware of where they have pressure when they're playing towards strong and weak side. And right now, Caps is too far side on the weak side of the map that he's not supposed to be in.
Caps maybe not aware enough, but he might just pour it out. But SKT could be waiting. They will back off. Happy to just force the Realm Warp out. And we'll take the blue buff as well. So small advantage over to the side of SKT as they try to cede a little bit control on the bottom side of the map.
It's a very tense game. We're just about to hit 20 minutes in. Nothing explosive has happened. There's no major breakpoints for either side. We can see items are starting to come through. You're getting to that 2-item spike for many of these teams. And oftentimes, as Jack was saying, especially when you look at a team like IG, you would expect a fight to happen. But it's difficult to predict with these teams because they both want it on their terms, and someone has to break.
And we know when these teams played at MSI, the team that had the gold lead at 15 minutes was the team that won the game.
Yes.
So we're saying the early game, focus on that. In this one, technically SKT had a gold lead at 15 minutes, but it was fleeting. By 16 and a half minutes, the gold lead was the same again. So I'm not willing to say that early game decided this one. What's going to decide it here, 20 minutes in, is who vision controls properly and who eventually finds the right picks that they can then turn into an objective.
And it's kind of exactly what you'd expect from a game one. Both opponents sizing each other up, looking for opportunities, looking for weaknesses to exploit.
It's the data game, you know? You're just trying to gain
game
data.
One is just data.
So you can download them for the rest of the series.
Is this Cloud Drake the objective that neither team is willing to give up?
Caught out. FLICKR going to find the snare. Perkz has to be ready to burn the ult. The chain CC is there, but will just be forced to ult early. That's the defensive tool gone from the side of Perkz. G2, are they willing to take this fight? FLICKR still has the Pop Blossom up and available.
So the biggest thing is that SKT actually have prio over mid. G2, I think the smartest thing for them is to actually disengage, not gamble the fight, but Mikyx is looking for a flank.
Teddy could go in at a moment's notice.
Perkz is not there. He's pushing bot turret.
Need to make their way out, but that ulti over the wall effort now coming in with the Zenith Blade. Mikyx going to be in trouble, tries to charm up, uses Jankos as an escape path. And Perkz now caught out. Why is he there? Just trying to push, just trying to get priority, maybe hoping to get a solo kill, but Teddy just zooms in and down goes Perkz.
Trying to create pressure off of burning his ult early, and the rest of G2 were unable to stop SKT from pulling through. But ultimately, that is just one kill, and the play is going to continue. SKT is not in the position to take Cloud Drake. The bottom wave is in G2's side. Wunder got mid priority, so this play isn't done just because Perkz died.
The Caps now goes in onto FLICKR, knows that he's been locked up. Good bit of damage there as FLICKR's now chasing. A lot of confidence comes in. Khan could just leap in. No Spirit of Shojin yet, but still an absolute terror in the 1v1.
So where's Perkz? He's now at 6 seconds. Thank you, Jack.
Teddy shredding through this one.
Going to be respawning soon, but as you rightly said, the play will continue. SKT will turn it into a Cloud Drake. A bit of an engage onto Mikyx, but he's just going to dash out of that one. And
watch Khan.
Oh, phase rush. Very fast, but not fast enough. Khan will be able to make it out, and Caps is getting scarier and scarier. We talked about the scaling threat on the side of G2. That is 2 items completed for the Ryze. Of course, the Neeko will have a lot of utility, a lot of potential AoE, but the Ryze just has raw damage, and Caps is looking to put it down as Khan goes 6 feet under.
And finally for G2, they find a pick. This will definitely open up the map a little bit more for them, because notice, Wunder is in the top lane. G2 are pressuring in mid, but they're actually going to use this as an opportunity to reset. They just want to push out the waves, go back to base, spend some of their gold, and more importantly, pick up those control wards so they can start getting a little bit more vision on the map.
And this game one is just so perfect based on our expectations in the series. I mean, they're 100 gold apart, 23 minutes into the game, and a player that I had my eyes on coming to this series was Khan, because in a lot of ways, he was having his best international tournament yet.
Completely agree.
Throughout group stage and throughout the quarterfinals. But if we look back to Khan's history with Longzhu with the 2017 World Championship falling apart in the quarterfinals, some of his MSI performances at 2018 and in 2019, it hasn't been there. And I think for SKT to win a world championship, Khan has to be playing well. He can't have a down performance in a critical series. And so far, the Renekton priority, banning out Quinn, banning out Ornn, taking away two of the things that are supposed to stop Renekton to still find himself down 0-2-0. He's got to find a way to do better, and G2's done a great job to attack him.
But the same is true for the opposite side. Perkz and Mikyx have not been able to find any advantage. Constantly, that ultimate from Perkz forced out so early in fights, making him so much less of a threat. But Wunder and Caps are picking up the slack. They are barreling into the bottom side of the map. They may give up mid-prio, but they will get another Tier 2 tower.
Now look at this very interesting map setup from G2. They actually have their AD carry sitting in the top lane, catching and farming waves, while their two solo laners group in a single lane because G2 is saying, you cannot hold off both of us. We are some of the power points at this point in the game. So Perkz can just sit in a side lane, funnel that farm, get more experience, get more gold. We're going to use Jankos and Mikyx to catch the mid wave. Sure, we can't gain priority, but it's fine. And it's these creative lane assignments that G2 often use to create chaos in the mid game.
The Hex Flash over the wall there comes in for effort. SKT, of course, now matching the Cloud Drake for G2, but the setup around the Baron has to be the next big thing. Khan, interestingly opting, it looks like, to go to the Titanic or potentially something else, as now Wunder is engaged on Unstoppable, but it might not be enough. Wunder on the retreat will be forced to flash away from the tangle on the side of FLICKR.
That was definitely a little odd that Wunder would just kind of walk up to there. My initial instinct was, oh, surely he must be baiting. But then he ends up using ult and flash afterwards, and SKT is looking pretty heavily to at least force a TP because Caps is bottom lane, and SKT need that to break somehow. He's actually realm warping in. He's going to force SKT into doing something.
Hex Flash over the wall. Have to see if the engage is happening because Caps in the meantime is going to be breaking down the base.
Wow, SKT is just disengaging.
Yeah, they're not willing to go all in for this fight. This is a great play by Caps.
Now G2 need to try and keep the G2 members, the SKT members rather, around so that Caps can freely split push.
This is a very strong Caps. If he takes the bait here, though, and goes in thinking it's Kled, Faker, though, just going to clear the wave. Knows that he can't go toe-to-toe with a level 15 Ryze. 3 items in. The Rylai is going to make him nigh impossible to escape from.
And SKT is falling behind G2 because they haven't been able to keep up with the Ryze. They're done with this play, though. They've matched bot TP, and they're starting Baron. They're trying to get that TP.
Jankos over the wall. He has the Tremor Sense. He knows this is happening. Seeker will spot them out. Perkz is there. Faker could now be in trouble. Wunder and Caps, though, setting their sights on the bottom side.
They're willing to
give up the Baron. If Jankos steals this, it could actually just end the game. It'll stop the recalls. Jankos, can you do it? In the meantime, it's just going to be one. Will go down in the favor of SKT. The empowered recalls come out. It is the bot lane inhibitor traded for the Baron. And we still have yet to see the game-defining fight. Jankos and Mikyx, though, looking to stop these backs, looking to stop these recall. Caps, Wunder, both with TP up and available. But it looks like both sides will back away from the exchange.
Another just straight-up trade. That was inhibitor for Baron. SKT handshaked on that one, yet I'm actually a little surprised Jankos didn't try some type of miracle steal because that's the type of steal where if you make it, you probably just win the game. Regardless, though, that's still not a clear edge for either team with an inhibitor down on one side and the Baron buff in SKT.
So what I ultimately think it is it's risk versus reward. Jankos looks at that situation and says, if I attempt a steal and I fail, now my team has to spend 35 to 40 seconds without me. And SKT have a Baron buff. What can they gain with having that numbers advantage? I don't want to run the gamble. We'll trade it for an inhibitor, we'll still have pressure on the map, and we'll keep 5 people alive. And again, you'll notice G2 sending their 2 solo laners up towards the top side to create this constant point of pressure that SKT cannot answer.
And no single member of SKT can walk alone into a lane. The threat of the long-range engage coming in from the Kled, of a Realm Warp from Ryze, the sheer damage output of those two champions is massive. But in the meantime, SKT are racking up buffs. They've got a Cloud Drake. They get another Baron, and the question becomes, what can they do with it?
And what I find fascinating is how often SKT have just been trying to use their numbers to create pressure. Often you see them grouped as 4 because it's evident that, hey, we would like to fight you. Not only are they a great team-fighting team, but they have a comp that is suited for it as well. Their ability to dive, their ability to split G2 up can create a lot of chaos and difficulty for G2 to execute. And every single time we've seen G2 say, no, we're going to go somewhere else, we're going to avoid you. And the problem is SKT is getting split up. Even with a Baron, they have to send someone top to answer. Look at where the Ryze is right now. He is halfway down that top lane, and SKT is like, well, we're going to have to try and siege man.
Knock up there. Kled now going to be in trouble. Wunder knocked into the middle of the team, but we'll have the remount to at least make him untargetable for a moment. Pocket Pistol takes him out to safety, but still, effort will find the kill.
And they now have a Baron buff with the pick. That's a heal then onto Perkz, but what more can they get? Because Caps, he's not going to stop splitting. You need to send at least 2 people to stop him, and that's what they've done, which means maybe G2 try 3v3. This is nuts.
Khan's going in, he's proc the dominance, he's hoping to chase on Caps, but he does not have the Spear of Shojin. He might not even need it. The Conqueror is there, he's now running for his life. The Seraph's Clid now coming in. Caps going down. He will not get the tower, he will not get the inhibitor, but G2 will push SKT away from the mid lane.
And we finally get to see an excellent punish from SKT. Wunder gets over-aggressive, Clid shuts him down alongside the chase from the SKT members. Khan comes in for a flank in the top lane, waiting on that control ward that is just sitting on next to the blue buff on the bot side. Beautiful stuff from SKT to at least relieve the split push pressure and secure themselves the mid tier 2.
Only 30 seconds left on the Baron. The inhibitor timer 2 minutes away. Dragon 3, a lot of big objectives coming soon. One big fight could decide the game, as we've been saying the entire game, but neither team looking to take the big fight. It is about the small exchanges, the small trades. In terms of gold, SKT for now are coming ahead.
Except in terms of buildings, there's 2 exposed inhibitors for SKT. So we're in that really delicate state of the game where if G2 find 1 pick, they can end the game. If they actually just catch a bunch of SKT in a spot and can disrupt recalls, they could theoretically get a Ryze and a Kled to end the game, because he can also realm warp minions to the Nexus turrets after they have an inhibitor down. So even though Ryze is capable of team fighting, since we've seen Caps farm up to about 13,000 gold now with 333 CS before 30 minutes, just an absurd amount of farm from all the sidelines he's been playing. They don't have to, right? They have the option to, but with the open inhibitors and how this game has gone, I expect you to keep trying to split SKT up.
I also think that SKT's comp is just very strong in a 5v5, like with FLICKR's ultimate, with the front line that will be Khan, with the Clid ultimate as well, and you then have to take into account that Teddy, as far as team fighting goes, is probably one of the best team fighting, if not the best team fighting AD carry on the planet. So I think that...
Oh, that's a fast faker. Jankos now has to back off. Glacial Augment will not be enough to catch him, but half respect. As you mentioned, the Tangle Barb's a 3-second route if Faker can connect on the empowered version. A lot of CC, a lot of easy follow-up for SKT if they can get a fight kicked off in their favor.
So now SKT have the Ryze on the Baron. They do have the gold lead. The top laner has a clear item advantage. They're primed and poised to fight. I imagine that Teddy is very close to completing his next upgrade. He's sitting on the stopwatch, which means it could be a GA, but it could also be a Mercurial Scimitar, depending on what direction he wants to go for. But the point is that with it spawning in about a minute's time, with the control that they already have initially, this will be the next big objective that they want to force G2 into. And of course, G2's going to say, okay, let's see if we can backdoor instead.
Yeah, where is Caps going to be and how well can SKT close down on him? Because if SKT send 2 people for Caps again, G2 need to have some type of answer. Whether it's Wunder coming in, whether it's actually having more people there, or if it's G2 forcing a fight on the 3 remaining members of SKT that haven't gone for Caps, because even though they've been able to open up these inhibitors, the gold lead and the potential double Infernal, this game's going to be breaking soon.
Teddy now moving on to the bottom side. Realm Warp coming out, but Teddy doesn't have any CC, and that means Caps will be able to make no safety.
Oh, but
now coming. 4 members. Caps has to be careful. Banshee's Veil is up. He's going to flash over the wall.
Oh.
Right there. Beautiful play. He's going to go over. Teddy's going to fish for the 1v1, but Caps is going to try to take him down. Cut down the Kaiser's health bar, but the CC, the follow-up, and SKT will kill Caps.
And he's like a raid boss. It took everyone using their cooldowns to go and get him, but what does that open up? Baron's up in 5 seconds. Multiple ultimates were burned by SKT. G2 has the presence there, but what can they do?
FLICKR going to be able to spot out Jankos as well. They know that they're not on the Baron. SKT can play this one much slower. Try to leverage their man advantage. Wunder now running for the hills. Only level 15 at this point. TP coming in. Khan on the flank. But meanwhile, they've got the pick. FLICKR is gone, and this could be the fight that they're waiting for. Khan go over the wall. Effort is going to flash away to safety. G2 waiting in the darkness. Wunder ready to go in, but the ult has been burned. He's going to have a much harder time. It is all eyes on Teddy, the last remaining damage source. Khan has been building tank. If they're going to win a fight, it's going to be at the back of this Xayah.
And G2 just have to wait 20 seconds so Caps can join. Then they are the ones that have the 5v4. By catching FLICKR, they turn it around, and now G2 has the edge.
I think G2 should just go straight back to the Baron right now. They know that they're going to have the numbers advantage very soon. They can force this play, but they're not going to take the gamble. The Infernal is what they want.
Taking away at it as SKT now want to secure mid lane priority. They've got 20 seconds left on FLICKR. They know Caps and G2 have the man advantage, but they can get pressure. They can get vision down. They can get ready for the fight. And the question is, do they back off? Do they reset? Or is this the moment where they choose their arena? It's this Baron pit where they will fight the game-deciding fight.
Oh,
SKT's
let's go
going
SKT.
straight on it. FLICKR can teleport in. They're daring G2 to come team fight them.
Here it comes.
That's 1 TP. Can they get Caps as well? They still see him. Here it comes.
Caps come. 7K.
Hex flash?
Hex flash over the wall. Effort
Here
now
it
going to
is.
come in. FLICKR's going to be on the backside. This pop blossom will be massive if they can find it. That's a CZ. That's a follow-up. Teddy into the backside. FLICKR now coming in. He's going to slow a lot of members, but Mikyx still alive. Caps is still alive. Pop blossom will only collect on one, and Wunder is still living. G2 are coming out on top of the fight for now, but a beautiful body slam will not be enough. They're in the pinch. That is not where you want to be against the Xayah, and SKT have got nothing left in this game one.
It took 34 minutes, but there was finally something that forced them to fight, and G2 win it.
The Titans finally clash, and it is G2 that comes out ahead in round one. G2 with the team fight win, G2 with the ace, G2 looking for the Nexus.
And it's over. They're killing the inhibitor, they're realm warping these minions close, they're tanking at the Nexus turret to not let this Nexus kill them, and I think they're gonna end the game.
And after that, back and forth, blow for blow, but the knockout goes in favor of G2. The minions moving in. The backdoor bonuses are gone, and G2 will push into the base. Neck and neck for the entire game. Effort wants to turn this one back, but it will not be enough. Caps and Perkz, eyes on the prize. They'll grab one more kill just for a little bit extra flavor as they find an advantage in the series.
What an intense game one. Both teams playing at their highest level. We saw some fantastic punishes from SKT, and the moment they found that pick onto Caps, I thought that they found out the recipe.
Yeah.
They got it. They were like, oh, all we have to do is catch Caps off guard. He's overextending too much in a side lane. And with the numbers advantage, I thought they could force the Baron. But then it was the pick onto FLICKR that G2 answered back with.
And when we're comparing these two teams, it's almost as if anything you can do, we can do too.
Yeah.
So if SKT is gonna catch Caps, well then why doesn't G2 just catch FLICKR? They were so patient in the river to get that pick onto FLICKR's Neeko, and then finally the climactic 32-minute team fight.
And in that fight, I love it because it's the question of if FLICKR lands that multi-man pop blossom, the fight ends in favor of SKT, no questions. But if they live and the Ryze and the Xayah get to fight in that same pinch that SKT want to fight in, they tear through the entire team.
And the initial teleport from Caps, he was actually on the blue buff. It was like a 4v5 for so long, and I was like, there's no way G2 win this fight. And the moment Teddy dived in as well, I was like, oh, SKT's just gonna clean house. But I couldn't see then what happened. A bunch of people died. That's why we have an analyst desk to help break it down. But give us 5 more games of this.
5 more.
This is what we wanted. Yeah, go to 6 games. I don't care.
Yeah, can we do that?
Can we ask for a best of 7?
Yeah.
Can we ask for a Game 5 blind pick? I don't know. What are the rules? Let us know. To give us their thoughts on how Game 1 played out, though, let's send it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
I don't think we can do that.
Thank you very much, Jankos. I'll start the petition for 5 more games. We'll see if we can get the league officials to agree on that. Game 1 goes the way of G2 after a very decisive and explosive final fight to the game. But I think it's important to highlight that the pace of this Game 1 for this series, stark contrast to yesterday's series.
Sorry about that. I mean, yesterday, Quick was talking about rugby, and then today is more like chess championship.
Right, yeah. I think this was such a nice game to watch. Like, very, very high level in terms of how they're moving around the map, especially how G2 are defending when they actually do fall behind initially to some of those early skirmishes.
Right, we talked about the mid laners and how a lot of this series might center around them and visitation to the side lanes. But in fact, the early game action was brought towards the mid lane this time around.
Yeah, high percentage plays. This was a really good call from G2 to be able to find that pick on towards mid, but then this was disrespectful from Caps. Caps wanted to get the full push out, but then didn't really get eyes on effort coming towards the mid lane.
Yeah, huge turnaround here because the Ryze is so pivotal to how G2 are going to play out the mid game. Again, though, another mistake. Yeah, Mikyx goes right back to him, so then they get the stun onto Perkz. That's a huge chunk in damage, and Caps tries to roam down, but Clid is behind him, and so they can just divide and conquer here.
And it's so huge because Perkz already juked the actual skill shot, but then because Mikyx dashing to him, he ends up on the other side, so he gets hit, and then you get the Q stun onto Perkz. That's why they lose the first trade. Caps then comes down, and he's now stuck in a bad situation. We initially were like, ooh, SKT, you know, this is looking very good. Now Effort is pulling off some good plays. Whenever there was aggression on one side from SKT, their dual lane would actually walk away so they wouldn't get killed like they did against Spice. They looked much cleaner in the early game, and it was looking good for them.
I mean, by all accounts, SKT was calling G2 on a lot of their shots and matching them blow for blow or even coming out ahead, as you mentioned. And so then the question becomes, where was G2's recovery? How did they end up coming back into this?
This is what I love about G2, but also hate about G2 as a European team who play against them, because they pull off these moves that you just don't expect when they're behind. And they always manage to find pressure in lanes, even when slightly down in the early game. This looked like SKT were with the Herald and everything taking over.
Let's get into it. Your What's Your Move replay brought to you by Axe. Here in the top lane, a 4-man collapse onto the top laner, Khan.
And SKT are actually like slightly ahead on tempo here, pulling multiple members to mid after killing bot turret. And then look here when everyone goes into the shadows, how SKT are pinging on the minimap. Oh, they're coming to mid now. But no, G2 do not want to go mid.
I mean, the assist ping is like, oh, so we need to have more pressure towards mid. But G2, they knew that all members of G2 were in that fog of war, only inches away from Khan. So honestly, I just think that is a good opportunistic move from G2, trying to go for these objective trades while SKT have allocated all of their resources elsewhere.
This shows an extreme level of focus throughout the game, in high pressure situations, in those seconds, to just realize that you can make the play happen through the top side, that you love to see from G2, because the ability to mitigate damage when you are in that deficit early and then find those opportunities.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference, there's a way in between. You see LPL teams just go for it and then feel like, oh, well, we didn't measure the play well enough, right? Then the mistakes can come through. But G2 is somewhere in between, recognizing that they can make the high percentage plays and then find those opportunities.
Yeah, and it's like extremely quick decision making, looking at the map saying, okay, they have 2 members mid already from SKT. They cannot kill this turret fast enough, so we can actually go for this play on top, and then they will still have to walk away from mid, because we can then move to mid after, before they can actually get something. So like, in the moment after killing your first turret, when most teams would just say, okay, great, let's go and defend now, they see the next quick play, and that to me is modern League of Legends. It's in the moment decision making, and it's not the 10-step setup you have from before where, oh, you get the vision, everything is beautiful. No, it's like 1 to 2 steps, quick move, and then next play, next play, next play, and they're so good at that.
And that's the key, because you can see it in Khan's movement. He realizes he's on the weak side, but he doesn't realize how deep and behind the play he is on the weak side, that they're already halfway behind him.
You talk about moment-to-moment decision-making. These are the final moments. Let's work through it.
And so for me, what's important is just the position of where the terrain is coming from, because FLICKR only nails one person, and if you can see where G2 is, 3 people are on the left, the rest are on the right. They can collapse in when SKT finally commits to the play.
And I was shouting during the game, because this is actually a good setup for SKT, but they wait so long on FLICKR's teleport.
Yes.
G2's teleports actually come in first when SKT are the ones forcing this Baron. They're the ones starting it up. They're the ones trying to draw G2 to them so that they can have this big AoE Neeko ultimate. But if you have your Neeko coming in that late, you see FLICKR is forced to run with home guards and flash over the wall, only to hit frontline members that also have Zhonya's. They just aren't quite in place there.
But I think it's important you highlight, like, the Hourglass is one defensive tool. Kled obviously is a very hard champ to burst down. Then you have a almost like as tanky Ryze as you can get, you know, with Sarah's shield. He's like not gonna die quickly, and Xayah ulti. There are enough defensive tools this late in the game that SKT cannot burst down G2 and teamfight.
Crazy close game with G2 coming up on top in that first game of the series. We're stepping away when we return. It's game 2 of G2 versus SKT. Don't go anywhere.
So are you gonna die today? Make it out alive. You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. Awaken, awaken, awaken.
You don't have a chance against me. I can calculate 90 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Oh my God, look at the fight!
before, but never again. Back on our grind, you know what it is. We gotta win, win.
Risk the fall, we have felt it all.